Here's a little pro tip that I've never shared with anyone. If you want a reg to bluff into you, here's what you do.
Welcome to the Mushroom Paradise, boys.
Get your sets out in the chat, boys. Oh, Reba. This over fetishization of blockers that has overtaken the poker
Not
world.
great either. He has a queen of diamonds.
Woohoo! Get you. Out in the chat.
We got Chris under the gun, $50 to go. Looks like they're playing 25-50. No straddle, pussies. Got Maria Hart at the table. Pretty classic. Garrett, everyone loves G-Man. Nick, I think, is a regular there, but he's a recreational player. And Andy, Andy, I just like Andy. He looks like the kind of guy you just get on with. You know, he's calm, he's to himself, but he's confident. You know, he's not going to be too awkward. He's going to be Andy. We're playing 10, 25, 50. 3 bets out of the big blind, squeezes it. Love to see it. Under the gun calls 6-7 suited, A7 of diamonds. So let's pause it on this flop. Andy now has ace queen with the ace of diamonds. He's squeezed and got 2 calls. Now, first of all, if I were him, I would probably squeeze bigger on this table, just judging by the fact that people are so fucking loose. I think you can get away with going a ton bigger with these kind of hands. Probably you can be pretty unbalanced and start going smaller with aces against, maybe even if you're going smaller with aces like 50% of the time, to the point where people can't work out what you're doing. And then smaller with hands like king jack suited, king queen suited that you're looking to get other worse hands that you're dominating to call with. Ace queen off, I feel like it's one of those hands. I'd probably just go bigger. Doesn't play as well post, and then we get 2 calls. We see the flop. 8-6-3, 2-tone. If I'm Andy, and if I'm also me in this spot, and you have to be really, really conscious of table dynamics and your perceived aggression stats, I guess you could call it. If I'm Andy or if I'm me in this spot, I'm checking this board 100% of the time. And the reason for that is that people just expect him, and in my spot, expect me to just bluff off a ton. And it's just a real nightmare having a really aggressive image in a spot where people think you can bluff loads, and then having a bluff, even if you're like, I wouldn't really bluff too many hands here. It's just worth having absolutely 0 bluffs in some spots. I'd just check 100% of my bluffs and probably see about 100% of my value hands. You won't find any other high stakes professionals that will tell you to do that, by the way. I hope you can appreciate that I'm going out on a limb here. I'm speaking how I live. And I'm not hiding the fact that I'm the most unbalanced you could possibly be. And I'm telling you, I think you should be the most unbalanced you should possibly be in most spots. There are some spots you want to balance, but only when they can figure out how you're unbalanced. From what I understand, 700 is bet here, which is a quarter pot. So that's pretty wild. Betting a quarter pot into 2 on 8-6-3, pretty wet board. Personally, my alarm bells are going off if I'm anybody else and saying, this guy doesn't have a set, he doesn't have 2-bet. So what's that leave him with? It leaves him with stabs, maybe something like 10-9 suited, maybe something like Jack-10 of spades, maybe even something like King-Jack of clubs because people have checked round to him. Oh, is it a third pot? Okay, third pot. Same story. Thank you. Again, my alarm bells are going off. I think that this is very, very likely going to be a weak part of a recreational player's range when they're doing this. And Andy elects to check raise to 2,000. Now, a very, very small check raise. I fucking love it. How do you rep strength? Against some players, you go small. Now, I learned this. There was a very cool dude that when I was playing up in the Victoria Casino, I played against a guy called Philip Suki. Fucking shout out to Philip Suki. I love this motherfucker. He was a professional poker player and he had his own strategy. It wasn't very aggressive, but it was quite tricky. It was just quite tricky. And one thing he said to me, and it stuck with me forever, it was like, I just bet a quarter on the river and everyone folds because nobody ever bluffs a quarter, so nobody ever wants to call it. This works in some spots against some people. With the rise of GTO players, this has become less and less of a potent strategy because GTO players are like, I've got pot odds, let's fucking go. On the other side of that, some GTO players are like, I've got a bad blocker, so no matter what size you bet, I'm going to be folding it. GTO, you can't just understand it intuitively. It's so fucking complicated that people just get it wrong time and time and time and time again. The best players in the world are getting almost all spots wrong. So that you have to be on the level above these kind of GTO players. Anyway, he check races to 2k. I love it. I think Nick is probably capped at 8x here. I think he can have some pocket 7s, pocket 5s, pocket 4s. I think he's very, very pocket pair heavy here. Some 8x. Every now and again pocket 8s, but it just seems unlikely. And we get a snap call. So I guess as I'm meant to be the person that's good at live tells, I'll probably fill you guys in with some live tell strategy. When somebody snap calls live and they're not a professional poker player, they almost always don't have the nuts. Just so you know, it's really, really, really rare when somebody snap calls you that they have anything other than a marginal showdown value or a flush draw. Here's a little pro tip that I've never shared with anyone. If you want a reg to bluff into you, here's what you do. You do this. This is me looking at his chips. This is me staring him down. And that means that you don't have a very strong hand from their perspective. Trust me, I've really, really gone deep into the whole of learning how regs think. The more and more you stare at people, the more and more they bluff. Unless they're the kind of person to be intimidated by the stare, in which case then they're less likely to be bluffing because they're like, shit, I don't want to be fucking stared down on the river. So there's a few little tricks you can do to make people bluff more. Anyway, so Nick calls the 1300. 10, alright. Decision point for Andy. Decision point for Andy. Suddenly, the 10-9s of the world of Nick get there. The 7s pick up a straight draw as well. The 8-7s, the 6-7s now have a straight draw as well. The 5s and the 4s look like they're just going to be folding. King Jack of diamonds, Ace Deuce of diamonds, they're all going to be calling. Personally, I would be very, very wary of betting this turn. Because I just think there's not enough hands that are going to be folding the turn. We can get calls from worse hands, but they all have outs against us. Like King Jack of diamonds, Ace 7 of diamonds, hands like that. Now let's look at hands that are going to be calling. We have 3x of diamonds. We've got 6-7, we've got pocket 7s, we've got 8-7, we've got 8-9, we've got possibly pocket 9s. Now he has 10-9. He has King Jack of diamonds, he has Ace Jack of diamonds, he has Ace Deuce, Ace 4, Ace 5 of diamonds, he has 10x of diamonds, he has 8x of spades and 6x of spades. There's so many fucking hands. There's so many hands. And maybe he even has like 10-7 suited as well. There's just a bunch of different hands. And 9-7 as well. 9-7 suited. 4 combos of that if he doesn't raise the flop with 9-7 of diamonds. So many hands. So if I'm Andy, I'm checking right now. But I think Andy might have some different plans. Otherwise, if he's just, check folding this turn, probably wouldn't be a hand that's made it to the highlights. Trying to counter stack. I wonder whether Andy's getting live reads here. He's a live pro and he's asking somebody to count their stack. I heard Phil Ivey say this and I 100% agree with it. If you want to know how strong someone is, ask them how much they have in their stack. It's super, super, super powerful to just say, how much have you got in your stack? And watch their reaction. As soon as they're outside of the realms of being stoic and calm, now suddenly they're all in the realms of like, oh shit, I need to count something, and then their emotions are worn on their sleeve. So one thing that's happened here, he's asked how much is in his stack. Look at his reaction. Is this a man that has a set?
Do I get that? Every time I'm in a hand with Andy, I have him count it down, and
if a recreational player has a set there, trust me, very, 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 very often they're gonna be like, yep, I've got this. And they're really just trying to control their energy. It's that whole like strength is weakness, weakness is strength thing. If they don't have a super strong hand, you know what their reaction is going to be like? It's erratic. It's like, oh, yep. And that's the same. It's not exactly the same, but it's very, very similar kind of tell patterns if somebody's bluffing the river or value betting the river. So if you wanna be looking for tells and somebody ain't giving you shit, feel free to ask them how much they have in their stack. Don't think it's against like the ethics of poker. They're very, they're at will to be able to ignore you. So Andy bets 6,300s. I understand his thought process here. He's like, yo, I'm gonna make some hands fold. He's like, I'm gonna go a size that maybe 7s will fold, maybe 6-7 will fold. He's really trying to target those kind of weakish hands. And then he's also like, I've got ace queen high, I can still be ahead if he has like something like king jack of spades, ace 5 of spades, if he has something like ace 7 of diamonds, etc. I've still got the best hand some percentage of the time. And the cool thing about this is, because it's such a wet board, all of the value hands are going to be shoving. So Nick, if he's got 2 pair, if he's got 10-8, if he's got 7-9, he's just going to be shoving the turn. Because it's such a wet board and he wants to get protection and value from his hand. Fucking lovely spot if he does call, knowing that now either Nick has a very kind of like bluff catchy hand, something like 10-9, or he's got nothing. So if the river is a brick, we at least know roughly where we're at. Again, that is not the demeanor of somebody that has like 7-9 of spades. You know, he could possibly have that and decide to slow play because he's got the ball kind of locked up. But somebody that's like, guys, just got to relax. I've just got to, you know, like, it's nobody with the nuts does that. He looks annoyed at the world. So the 8 on the river, offsuit 8. I would imagine that Andy is going to have 0% bluffs on this river. I'm pretty sure he's going to have 0 bluffs here, because if you do have a hand that's going to want to bluff, you just know that you're going to get hero called. You're betting like almost half pot. You know, you're betting like, what is that, 55% of the pot or something like that. There's no way that you're going to get a fold from a 10 or a 6, and obviously an 8 is going to be calling you, even a fucking 3. When both flush draws miss, try not to bluff too many recreational players like this. Unless it's a very specific situation. He goes to the quick check. And he bets 10k. So now Andy's in a spot where he's getting 3 to 1. He needs to be right 25% of the time to break even on his call.
To a straight, but he does have diamonds, so it's kind of neutral because he can rock the 7-9. Wow, look at Andy thinking about this with just ace high.
So one thing that I think is really pertinent, and this you'll see in so many fucking high stakes commentators and analyses by professionals. Nothing against this commentator. I don't know who he is. I'm sure he's great at poker in his own right. I got nothing against him. He's a commentator. Loved him. But this over fetishization of blockers that has overtaken the poker world. I'm sorry, guys. It's very, very difficult to tell people that they've been lied to. If you've been lapping up the things that people are saying about blockers, 100% you've been taken in by an ideology. This phenomenon sweeping over the poker worlds is absolute insanity. Now, of course, there's value to blockers. It changes the mathematics of the game. But people focus on them so fucking much that whenever you hear a high-stakes commentary of a poker hand, the only thing the commentators are really speaking about is blockers, and it's absolute insanity. Now, the commentator said here that we got the 7 of diamonds, which is kind of okay removal, because now we can have the 7-9. Doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe we're blocking Andy somehow turning up with a 7, so he thinks that we're, you know, he's not going to put us on the 7-9, but it doesn't make any sense. Andy doesn't have any 7x in his range. The second thing that you're going to hear the commentator probably say, and somebody said in the chat as well, is that Andy has the queen of diamonds. Definitely a relevant point. Now, does that mean that he should focus his decision on the queen of diamonds or not having the queen of diamonds, like some game theory oriented blocker fetishizationists, to invent a word? Absolutely fucking not. Okay, let's talk about it in real life for a second. What hands can Nick have? Now, he can have ace deuce of diamonds, he can have ace 4 of diamonds, he can have ace 5 of diamonds, ace 7 of diamonds, he can have ace 9 of diamonds, ace jack of diamonds. Let's assume the queen of diamonds isn't in our hands. He can also have queen jack of diamonds, king queen of diamonds, queen 9 of diamonds. Now, what other bluffs can he have? He can have queen jack of spades, he can have queen 9 of spades, king jack of spades, can have ace deuce of spades, ace 5 of spades. It's a bunch of backdoors because he check raised so small. You can have a bunch of those kind of hands as well. If you narrow this down into combinations, the queen x of diamonds ones, it's just not that many combinations in comparison to how many bluff combos he has. Now put it into more relative terms. How many value combos can he have? Well, we've already got into our heads that he doesn't have anything on the turn better than a pair, because anything 2-pair plus will have just shoved the turn. Perhaps he can have 7-9 of spades specifically that didn't want to raise the flop, obviously, but then also had the turn locked up. I could see that being possible, but I think anything else would have just jammed the turn. So now his value combos are going to be 8x, exactly somebody said in the chat. For us to want to be making a break-even call, we need the bluff to value ratio to be 3-1. Now, is the Queen of Diamonds going to be completely altering our decision when it's such an easy decision? Of course it's not. Of course it's not. If he only has 8 value combos and he has 12 bluff combos and we're getting 3-1, it's one of the easiest calls in the world. Even if we add in, let's say, 8-9 of clubs, 8-7 of clubs, you know, hands like that, we're still easily getting the right price. So now, added on to live tells, for me, personally, this would be such an easy call. You just throw in the 10k, you need to be right 1 in 4 times. It's just absolute, you know, it's a really easy spot when you actually break down the combinations of it. But the main point I really want to get across here is not to overvalue this little Queen of Diamonds. It doesn't matter if you're calling 100% of your hands on this river. Nobody, like Nick isn't going to be exploiting you because this hand is never going to come up again. And if it were, you would just have that in your memory bank. Oh, I played a really similar spot against him and he saw me call this. So now you'd adjust your strategy based on that. It changes it so mathematically slightly. So slightly. We're living in reality. We can't be living in this fake world of everything counts on block. You just said it there.
And Andy's removal is not great either. He has a Queen of Diamonds. That's a card you definitely do not want to have.
It's true. Point agreed with. But does it change anything? Not really. Not really.
Whoa! Andy makes the call with just ace high. And he does have the ace of clubs, which means he does block ace 8 of clubs.
I can't, again, much love to the commentator, but the amount of times that people have to speak about blockers is just brainwashing. The amount of people that I get coming through that I give like a little bit of coaching to, and they'll go through a poker hand and like half of their thought process is blockers. It's madness. Honestly, it's nothing short of madness. This is why so many people aren't getting good at poker, because the people that are on TV, the people that are speaking about the strategy consistently publicly, they're just talking absolute bullshit. Again, much love to the commentator. I've got nothing against him, and I'm just criticizing, not judging here. But at the same time, when you're saying this kind of stuff, like you're making so many people shit at poker that there's almost been a new kind of boom in poker. And it's not like the old boom where people barely know the rules and they'll just stack off like 800 bigs to top pair, because people still know stuff about poker. But the boom is that people are playing so weird that you can like 5x pot shove a river, and if they have the right blocker, they're just going to call no matter what. And you can bet a quarter on the river or a third on the river, like this guy did. And a lot of people, when they're sitting there with the Queen of Diamonds, they're like, well, I can't call. I've got the Queen of Diamonds. And mathematically, it's nonsensical to just base your strategy around these blockers. So when you're living in reality, when you're playing recreational players, or even if you're playing very, very, very good players, you have to be thinking, first of all, about their range, second of all, about your range, and then third of all, about combinations of hands. And if you can work out combos of hands, you're in a great spot.